Happy New Year's, everybody. Welcome back to the One Up Network. It's time for the One Up Yours show for Friday, January the 5th. Had to stop and say, you see, I almost did it. I almost did it. I just practiced it and went right past it. It's that layoff week, and I'm behind, but we do have the entire gang here.
Layoff? I don't think that's a commonly used term.
It is. Didn't you know the One Up Network's like a seasonal golf course?
Oh, okay.
And we all got laid off last week. Didn't you file for unemployment?
You're not getting a paycheck from last week.
I laid around last week.
That, of course, is Shane. Shane and Luke and John all here. Andrew on the Wheels of Steel. It's a Fantastic Five all here.
The Wheels of Steel?
Yeah, wow.
Quoting Saxon lyrics at us now?
No.
A DJ.
I feel like I just stepped into a Hot Wheels commercial.
No. He's kind of like,
kind of like our DJ?
Yeah, he's kind of our DJ.
All right.
You know, twiddles the knobs over there. And
He mutes me when I'm going to cough.
He does, actually.
he's very skilled at that. Hey, you know what? Someone actually was joking about in a thread in the message board about what does it take to do run the system and everything. It takes a lot to run the system. You have to sit there and monitor the levels. You have to keep it all up. Fortunately, a few people pointed that out. Andrew keeps this show on track, and what you hear.
He has to wrangle us assholes together every week and write a rundown. And it's good.
Dude, you think herding goats in Zelda is a pain? You ought to try getting us together.
Dude, I hate the herding shit.
Yeah, no doubt. Anyway, so for those of you not familiar with the show, let's talk about what will be on the show today. We'll do our normal setup. We've got in the first part what you've been playing. Hopefully everyone's been playing some games over the holidays, not just playing with their blackjack and push mail and all that kind of stuff. In the middle section, we're going to do one of our most favorite segments. We're going to do the quick, pardon the interruption style thing, except we have a new name for it. We have our own name for it now, 4-minute warning.
I like it.
Because at the 4-minute mark, Skip says, okay, guys, move on.
4 minutes is a little long. Normally you can get in and get out in like 2.
Depends. And sometimes 4
Average
minutes.
males,
Maybe you can.
30.
Depends how long it is since you did it last.
That's also very true. They like to spread it out sometimes so that like it's shorter.
How much line should I give them to go with this?
You laugh.
I'm going to let them
You're laughing
run.
because you know I'm right. That's the laughter of a married man. Drowning in the
please
tears
continue.
of a Heineken.
No, go ahead. Feel free to continue.
No, I think I'm good.
All right.
We've got a lot to get to.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, and then in the third segment, of course, we have news, and Luke promised me an entire Garnet news
An
section.
entire segment devoted to Garnet.
I'm scared to death of that. So anyway, who was actually playing games over the holiday?
All of us, I would hope.
You sound enthusiastic. What were you playing over the holidays,
Well,
Shane?
First and foremost, I unpacked and hooked up my PlayStation 3.
Oh my God.
At long last.
I'm surprised we didn't do a news story on it.
And I spent a lot of time actually with Gran Turismo HD, which was a wonderful little Christmas present, and a lot of MotorStorm.
Did you like the force feedback? Did you hook up a wheel? We'll talk about it later.
No, but I did like the game. I thought it was a really excellent download, a really great freebie. Like the replays look sick.
It was a nice Christmas
Okay, you know that I wrote that big an assessment. I hate to call it a review. You can't really review a demo, can you?
Right. Not really. I mean, you can talk qualitatively about it.
Yeah, in-depth, hands-on with it or whatever. So what did you like about it?
Well, I thought that it was just enough Gran Turismo for me because I'm not a really hardcore player. I only played 1 and I played 3. And for me, like I would probably only unlock 20 cars. I mean, I'd rather have a few more tracks, but I'm not that hardcore. Like once the game gets really hard, I'm kind of screwed at Gran Turismo. I'm not that good at like a serious racing game. I'm more of an arcade racing kind of guy.
Yeah, I'm by that.
So yeah, it was a perfect amount for me. Like it looked beautiful. It was fun to play. You know, the replays looked great. I like that you can download replays and like watch other people's. I mean, for a free download, it's a beautiful game.
I'm a little more hardcore. I totally love Gran Turismo. I have to say that my favorite one of them is Gran Turismo 2. 2 is the one that I was totally...
Really?
Oh, 2 was...
Like people like 3 the best.
Man, 2 was awesome. 2 is the one where they first like exploded the number of cars, and then of course 2, I was an early adopter, so I was caught up in the whole can't get 100% thing, and then the garage deletion problem.
Also, I didn't actually read your thing. What did you think of?
Oh, I loved it.
Okay.
I think it's first of all, there's a bunch of things that are really good out of it. But the part that's the best about it is the physics system has gotten so good in it that the drifting is awesome, and the drifting works.
I found myself drifting better than I did in GT3, which is the last one I played.
Well, that's because a lot of games to make drifting work, they actually have to go in and tweak things and have like a drift setting. You know, like Need for Speed does. We've talked about that. Need for Speed, you play drift, and the physics handling model is much different than it is when you're playing, you know, just the racing game. They don't have to do that here, and it works so well because, and even just what you had to set up, you know, you had tires and what else? We have tires and traction control, and that was pretty much all you needed to change to be able to drift. And once you did that, I mean, that course you're on in that Alpine is awesome. It's so fun to drift around so
and
awesome to drift around that course.
as this aborted stopgap game, it makes me really excited to see what they do with GT5, because if this was just like a bare bones like stab at PS3, like when they really make a real game, and I'm curious to see what they do with motion control, because this doesn't have that.
Right, and this was just a patch on to existing Gran Turismo code. This isn't the whole new thing. And with as much as development as they did on the physics, I'm reasonably optimistic that you'll finally see everyone I said there was no damage in Gran Turismo because of the manufacturer's
licensing stuff.
I don't know that I buy that, because Forza
That's
had
not
damage.
actually true, because there was some Yamauchi interviews that we did when GT4 hit, where part of it was that some of the manufacturers won't let them do damage and some of them will. But part of the problem was that the damage couldn't be modeled accurately, and because he's so anal about that stuff,
Exactly.
he wants not only for it to look right, if that is going to affect the physics model.
It
On
has
the
to do it
PS2,
right.
he wasn't able to actually affect the physics model by your front near side wheel getting damaged. He wasn't able to change the model because the PS2 couldn't process it fast enough.
Exactly. So you've seen that too, because I'm now reasonably hopeful that he'll be able to do that, and in addition to that, be able to do rollovers, because he wouldn't do rollover before because of that same reason. He couldn't get the physics modeling to work right. So I think there's a lot to be excited about. I think the flip side of that is that, and you know how Gran Turismo is. It's going to be 2008.
Right. Well, that's all the better for this to be out here now. Like the fact that you can download this for free, and it looks really good. Like if you watch those replays, if you watch it,
All right.
I want more. I want them to add more. I want them to add more over time, because it's guaranteed that Gran Turismo is going to take forever.
So now that this is out, if they do decide to do microtransactions for this, will you do them?
I would, yes. But I'm a I'm a car junkie.
Well, I would buy courses. I probably wouldn't buy cars though.
I would definitely buy courses.
Okay, so what would you pay for a track?
Which depends on the track, but say for like Autumn
Say
Rain.
they remodeled the Nürburgring from GT4, which is a big track, it's 11 miles.
$299.
I'm thinking it would be something like Autumn Ring, and if they did something like Autumn Ring, I would pay about $5 for that.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a classic Gran Turismo set. So
Yeah, they play a lot of MotorStorm, which I really like. I can't wait for the US version, which hopefully has things like, I don't know, replays and modes.
It
and
hopefully has
stuff like that.
Hopefully it's a full game.
Yeah.
online.
I played a lot of Wii Sports. I actually had a Wii Sports related accident where I broke a glass.
Did you really?
At a friend's house on New Year's, yeah. I was really into tennis and backhand.
You were up to a lot on New Year's from what I saw on the internet.
I don't know what you saw.
Licking
There was
PS3s.
some licking, yeah.
Shane Chobot.
Oh, God.
No comment.
How do you like the sound of this? Jessica Bettenhausen.
Ooh.
Man, it doesn't really do
You
anything.
can do a lot with you can do a lot with Photoshop these days.
How about Tal Bettenhausen?
What are you talking about? All these are good people.
Nothing. What else do you play? So
I played through
Getting back
I played
on-
through Roston. I blogged about that.
Really?
Yeah. I'm a big Roston fan and randomly decided to play through it.
wow, he like goes far afield.
yeah.
I turn him loose from the balls.
I beat Elite Beat. I bought Elite Beat Age. I haven't beaten it, but I bought it.
Good start. That's a good start.
Based on lots of recommendations around here.
It's the best
So you have
game
any
last
trouble in it
year.
yet? Luke actually had a little.
I did. No, I absolutely did. The Jamiroquai song, the Can song, is I can't. Skip. I had Skip beat it for me.
Dude, he nailed it too. He like sat down and did it.
Yeah, he
first
just
try.
sat down. He was playing Guitar Hero 2, the Xbox 360 version, and he stopped and he was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to beat it the first time because I'm in Guitar Hero rhythm. And he just sat down, punked it out.
It
and
was like Jedi shit.
handed it back to me, and I was like, oh, a B. I never get those.
Well, okay.
Game's gonna
also,
know.
The biggest news. Any minute now, we will be receiving Virtua Fighter 5 review code, and you won't see me doing anything else for quite some time.
Is that the one I'm in? Yeah,
Yeah,
mine
you are in that
reviewable?
game. Yeah.
Awesome.
Look forward to seeing you in it
What?
as a character.
Yep. Luke Smith.
Unlockable character, Luke
Playable.
Smith.
Wow.
Playable. I've made it.
Megaton.
Well, that's,
Complete with the "You shut the fuck up" slogan.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah,
he used the drunken style, right?
Look forward to that.
typically.
Of course. But you, Luke. So besides getting Andrew to help you there with the EBA, what have you been playing?
No, I had a plane ride home to Northern Michigan, so I played Elite Beat. I started back through A Link to the Past and realized that my game, which is somewhere in Dark World, I haven't played in probably a year. So I gotta start over. I have no clue what's happening in that game. I logged in and I was like, I don't know what I'm just supposed to do.
What sparked you to pick that
You might
up?
need a pendant.
I just wanted to play through it.
Do you have all three pendants?
No, I've never beaten it. I wasn't allowed to have a Super Nintendo when I was a kid. I was only allowed one, the Genesis or the Super Nintendo.
You're forced to choose sides.
I was forced to choose. Yeah, my parents, they said I could only have one. So Madden was better on the Genesis. So So I made that choice. Yeah,
Interesting shared
maybe the wrong
shared
choice.
thing there. I had a Genesis too, and I didn't have.
Did it?
Yeah, Madden was the tipping point for me. That was
Wow.
That was the tipping point for me too.
I bought Madden 93. Brian won't believe that. I told Brian Tarr, like, I purchased Madden 93 for Genesis in a store. He didn't believe it. It was good.
For me, it was more of a I just got out of college and couldn't afford an SNES and a Genesis. So
wow. That's
yeah, I know. I had to
How
do
old
that.
were
I
you?
did that for you.
I don't know, 11.
It was a nice softball pitch, wasn't it? I thought I'd throw that to you.
Oh.
It was a long. I don't know. I wasn't 11. It was a while ago though. I was at the age before I could work because I started working right when I was 14 or
Because
15.
the Genesis and the SNES came out when I was at my first job. Yeah.
And then
Okay,
I played
moving
a lot
on.
of Elite Beat, and actually,
So was I.
some anecdotal evidence. I took my DS Lite home, and I have a 14-year-old sister, and I said,
Is she hot?
God, oh my God, I didn't. Never mind.
So you can't answer that either
No,
way.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't know. I'm sure 14-year-old dudes like my sister. Anyway.
My 14-year-old sister is hot, says Luke Smith.
Yeah. So I took the DS Lite home and I was playing Elite Beat and I was like, Gracie, you got to check this out. And she's like, this looks stupid. And she sat down to play it. And like when I came home one night from hanging out with my friends, she was still up at like 3 a.m. going through like the 1-star mode, just like having a blast with it.
You're like,
So
yeah,
just
that is stupid.
anecdotal evidence. I mean,
It works.
it works.
This isn't my story. It's a friend of mine's story. But he went home and his grandmother asked him if he had a Wii because she'd heard about it and wanted to try it, and he couldn't find one. He's like, "No, Grandma, I can't find one yet." And she was upset.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway,
That is pretty crazy.
That's pretty much all of it. Well, this week I played a little bit of Crackdown, but otherwise, kind of just getting back into things.
Anything to like form an opinion yet?
Well, I mean, I've played it before. I've seen it, up close at Leipzig and had like a really
Right.
nice demo. And then Exo 6, I played it too, and it's good. It's a lot better than you thought it was going to be. I really, really, really like the way it looks. Even in standard, which I was messing with it on last night. The text is small on standard, but it's not Capcom small. It's readable small. And the game really looks even on standard like you're playing through a cartoon. And I really like.
Did you say it at all?
I
It does look
really like
nice.
the way it looks and the way like the cell shaded aesthetic. It does look like you're playing through a cartoon.
it's the first cell shaded next gen game you've seen, so it's kind of like, oh wow, this is what it looks like now.
And the vibe when you're playing the game reminds me a lot of this TV show, and I was talking with John about it yesterday. That show, Cops, Fighting Crime in the Future Time, from the late 80s, early 90s. It was like these cops in the future busting criminals, and it's a lot like that. The mission system's proximity based, so where you are on the map is how you get your assignments. And there's this weird, I don't know, sort of goofy system where it counts down from 5 to 1 and lets you know that you're going to get a dossier update, and that's when you get like an assignment. And when that happens, the action stops, and this information pops up and gives you a mission to go on. You can either go on it or just keep running around. I think that I'm probably going to get a kick out of just like running around in the game and leveling up my character's agility and then like jumping from building to building. It really is like a superhero cop.
So
I am uncommonly excited about this. I think
Yeah,
a lot of people are like, Crackdown looks like it's going to suck.
I think it might have that Incredible Hulk thing. Like people like that game because
Yeah.
it was just like, oh, I'm having fun wrecking stuff.
But it's got
you
some
know?
cool idea. It's got, the character development stuff is a little bit like Oblivion, where the more you do something, the better you get. So, you gradually are able to leap over buildings and you get better at. I don't understand the logic of some of it, because some of the vehicles are actually transformers, but apparently you don't know where the button to transform the vehicle is until you've leveled up to a certain thing. There's some bizarre sort of like, okay, I'll just like
yeah,
tolerate that.
like the agent vehicles. As you level up your driving, you'll get into an agent vehicle, and it'll be like, and like jets will come out of the car, or like the semi truck front, the agent semi truck will like sprout wings, and like all sorts of different shit will happen. And it's like, really, in the game's fiction, did they just not tell you about the red button?
Yeah, it does that.
I see you've got your level 3 driving certification. Reach inside your dashboard and pull out the yellow card. Read the card and press the red button near the ignition, and then it's like transform.
Look, Kay, never touch the red button.
Yeah, but it looks really nice. The version we have doesn't have co-op in it right now,
Yeah.
but the demos apparently
Yeah,
going to have co-op in it, right?
January 18th is the demo still.
So I think people are going to have a lot of fun with that, because there's apparently stuff that you're going to be able to do with vehicles and with putting someone in a vehicle and throwing the vehicle and then doing stuff with it, where it's beyond just running through and shooting things together.
And it's cool too, because the co-op is something that you can just like. I can just be playing my game, just going through my regular player, and Garnet could just jump into my universe, I guess, and start playing. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty cool. And there's going to be, I think there's
How are
going
they going to manage that? Do you have to invite someone in?
I think you set the game mode, like public or private. Or
Okay.
Do you think this is going to be a game where people actually play the story, or are they going to just jump in and dick around?
I think they'll want to play the story if only to like level their character. The story seems like a means to getting to that end, where you get to that end and you're like, okay,
but you still level up just sticking around, right?
Yeah. You level
in that way, it's like Oblivion. But I mean, my concern with it is it's going to be a bit like Oblivion in that you do have to make a conscious effort to go find the story, because otherwise you can just wander down a street or drive into a neighborhood which is full of thugs and just get out and start shooting stuff.
How big is the world?
It's pretty substantial.
Huge,
it's 3 pretty big islands, and one of the things that's really technically impressive about what the Real-Time Worlds guys have got done is the draw distance in this game. You can see an island from a current. You can see like a far off island from where you are. It's all cool. Being rendered in. It's because of the concessions that they decide to make with the art style. I mean, it does look simpler.
The simpler geometry lets them have more.
It's simple geometry. All the buildings have this sort of pebble dash texture on them.
Yeah,
it's like everything. There's a very uniform, sort of spackled look to everything. But the vehicles are really nicely modeled, and they're really well lit.
Right.
And then the main character model has got a lot of detail in him as well.
And there's a bunch of different character models you can pick. We can't pick them on the build that we have, but there's probably 5 or 6 different dudes.
But I think, a lot of people are overlooking this, saying, "Oh, it's just going to be the game people buy to get Halo." But I think once you've played the Halo multiplayer, if you get that version, there's a really good game here, and I think it's probably the 360 game that the migration of 360 owners will move to.
It's the next game.
It's the next game after Lost Planet.
It's the game you'll play when the Halo 3 beta is not working. Well, here's the thing, though. That Halo 3 beta, I mean, we're going to talk about this later, but that beta is not going to be active when you go home with the Crackdown. You're not going to be touching Halo 3 for a while after you get Crackdown.
That's good. That way you'll actually play Crackdown.
If you're Microsoft, why would you do that? You got a long.
You want people to play Crackdown.
You want to sell Crackdown for like a good 6 weeks and sell probably some retarded amount of copies of that game.
Especially after they got a lot more people with 360s after Christmas.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that too.
Yeah. What were you playing?
I played a lot of Winning 11 on 360, which is an awful lot like Winning 11 on PS2.
Well, I think we talked about this before.
That's what you said.
We talked about this 6 months ago, because it is an update of the PS2 version. It isn't.
You were completely right.
It's not a next-gen game.
Market. That was the one thing Shane was right on last year.
In fact, not only is it barely an update to a PS2 game, it's actually they've done a bit of an EA Sports on it, and they've actually sort of.
Are they charging you for a ball? It's like $14.95.
They're not going that far. Actually, I'm going to tell you guys, next week I'm on a panel at CES with Chip Lang. Shall I take some Trojans with me?
Yeah. Oh, could you?
Nice.
Bring the Magnum. Say, I brought these for you. These are next year.
There might be some EA fans in the audience in case you want to get them later.
Could you do that? Could you do that for a segment on the One Up Show?
Ooh.
What would be great is if he listens and hands you a tuba Adams live.
That would be so good. You think Chip's listening? Hi, Chip.
So, I played Winning 11. My son got really bored with the Pixar Cars game after a while because we'd pretty much beaten everything over the holiday, and he wanted to play a new driving game. So we actually started playing Ridge Racer on PS2.
And you didn't get bored with that?
PS3, sorry, yes. Oops.
It's actually simple enough for a kid, Yeah,
I mean he couldn't master the drifting mechanic or whatever, but he got the hang of it. So he's been sort of hopping between that and Ridge Racer 6 on 360, which, I mean, aside from...
And he is pissed about the difference in frame rates, let me tell you. But John's kid is upset.
Yeah, as I said in my review, they're largely interchangeable.
They are. I mean, there's the slipstreaming mechanic and a couple of other things, but they're very similar games. Yeah. And as far as he's concerned, it's the same thing. So he can either play it in the bedroom or play it in the living room.
Does he like the rumble or no rumble?
He actually prefers the 360 controller.
Interesting.
Yeah. So 3-year-olds, 360 controller, big hit.
He likes those decals in the car too.
Yeah. And what else was I playing? No, I was bouncing.
How's your garden in Viva Pinata?
I neglected my garden over the holiday in a big way. Yeah, I kind of...
Yeah, trim it up a little bit.
It does need to be trimmed back.
At least it's not like Animal Crossing where you go back and there's roaches everywhere and you feel like an ass for not going.
But I do feel bad. I did a little sort of my games of the year, and a lot of people call me out for not including Elite Beat. And the reason I didn't include EB8 was because I haven't played it yet.
I walked by you the other day, and you were just saying to yourself, I think this is the game of the year.
I was.
You were just saying that to no one in particular.
I was having a discussion with me. Skip had headphones on, and I was talking to myself.
I overheard. I was like, "That's gay."
He's gone talking to himself.
It's a male cheerleader product.
It is.
What would Master Chief say?
Well, actually, yeah. I mean, I think that Halo Combat Evolved was probably a game of the year for the 5th year in a row, but. Our game of the year stipulation for our website is different, so I gotta adhere to that. One game that you didn't talk about that I was gonna write a game like a games of 2006 blog and never got around to it. I don't know, hanging out with my mom, and was Mega Man Powered Up, which was the game that I played like the entire drive across the country out here.
Actually, yeah, when you first started here, it was all you would talk about.
Yep, I love that game. I still love that game.
That was back when we thought you liked games, Luke.
That was a good trick.
You had a spool.
That was such a good trick. And you guys thought I was quiet when you hired me? Man, snow
James
job.
Milkey was worried that you might be a bit quiet.
Yeah, a bit.
Clearly, we
did he
misread
know.
you.
Yeah.
He's a good read on people, that Milky.
He did say that, didn't he?
But yeah,
Wow.
Mega Man Powered Up is one of those games that I think it came out. I mean, and I'm sure there are other games on the list too that came out early in this year that you probably have forgotten about now as the years, as you got through Q4. But Mega Man Powered Up is great, and Capcom needs to do a sequel because Mega Man 2 is easily one of my favorite games
I heard
ever.
they were planning on it.
I would hope that they are. I mean, I want that game so bad. Just make it not framey this time and put it on a platform that maybe it'll get played on. DS.
Were you?
Well, so I did the GTHD thing, and then right after that, I got the screen replaced in my Plasma, so I had to go back through break-ins. So
Yeah, why did you get the screen replaced in your Plasma? Tell me again.
Yeah, what happened?
You got sand in your vagina? What happened? I don't remember.
there's, one pixel is
One pixel?
one pixel had 2 subpixels that weren't.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Garnet Lee.
I have like 4 dead pixels on my PSP. It's okay.
Look, you know what?
We know.
$2,000 Plasma under warranty. I'm getting the damn thing fixed. Christ, I want it to be perfect. I mean, it's,
Understandable.
and it's under warranty. It didn't cost me anything, so they took it away. They brought so they put a new screen in. So I let it go through another 100 hours break-in, which put me back on the PC. And I got to tell you, I was like, first of all, I tried to play some World of Warcraft, and Andrew and I have been talking about this. I'm done with that. It's so.
What about Burning Crusade?
It's about to begin.
Yeah, but you know what? The quests are all still the same. It's get me 5 acorns, kill me 23 muskrats, whatever.
Luke is flaring his
seething.
nostrils.
Look, dude, you don't ever play with me. I mean, so
Oh.
I don't. Yeah,
Are you too low level to play with Luke?
His
No.
character just isn't of an appropriate strength at his level to play with.
yeah, he looked at my 60 and he was like, "Fuck that! I ain't playing with that guy."
Dude, you have a slow mount.
It wasn't just the slow mount; it was everything else.
Luke, I knew you were uppity. I didn't know you were that.
Dude, he was like looking at my gear and like.
Well, I said before on the show, like if,
was looking at your gear.
if Garnet,
he was totally checking out my gear.
yeah,
Really? You
Garnet's
sit like that, Garnet. I mean, you can't help it sometimes.
Garnet's gear's from Kmart.
And that might actually be a compliment. I mean, you were so disdainful. I was like, "Fuck, I ain't playing this character anymore."
So you played World of Warcraft.
And
Yeah, so I went back to Titan Quest because that was like,
Really?
yeah, I love Titan Quest.
Is the expansion out? It is, right?
No, the expansion is not out yet, but I guess it's coming this summer. I asked Jeff. Jeff was like, went and saw it, right?
Yeah.
So it's apparently coming pretty soon. The mod community is there. The game's really good. I mean, it's a great Diablo 2 clone. It's absolutely a clone of Diablo 2. I really enjoyed it. I have a lot of fun with it. What else did I play? I tried to play some Supreme Commander because we were going to do a preview on it, like everybody else's preview that came out today, except that for some reason on our system it won't run. I mean,
Oh my God!
yeah.
Who might THQ make that?
Well, no,
They're-
Gas Powered Games, Chris Taylor. So
Wait, I want to get to my conspiracy theory. Hang on. So Saints Row, right? THQ.
Yes.
Saints Row.
published by THQ.
Interesting. What do we
no
get, Saints Row?
conspiracy. Okay, so look, here's
I'm
the
just
deal.
saying. I'm just saying.
First of all, from the amount that I played of it, the first thing that shocked me was I expected it to be somewhat like Total Annihilation, but I didn't realize it was going to be Total Annihilation. I mean, it is so Total
People
Annihilation.
like Total Annihilation.
I loved it. It's my favorite strategy game of all
People
time.
like Total Annihilation 10 years ago.
It's still my favorite strategy game. It's slightly over StarCraft. Simply,
Really?
yeah. The
I need to get that StarCraft game.
it's all right.
Just wait for the new one.
The back and forth between
Or
the
you can
units.
play it on N64. That was a real treat.
The back and forth between the units in Total Annihilation was the best balancing of any of those games I've ever played. So this game is so similar because it's the exact same. You start off with this commander unit. The commander wanders on the battlefield. He can build bases. He can build all the infrastructure. It's very resource dependent. It's really, really resource heavy. It's really about managing your resources while building a big army.
And strange because a lot of
Have moved
RTS
away
games
from
are
that.
moving towards just pure combat.
Right. So this one,
Little
it has
old
a
school.
It has a
Yeah.
smooth system for doing that, but it's really hardcore on making sure that you have enough mass and energy coming in to build and power stuff. But what happened is, and if you play Total Annihilation, you get these huge walls of units. I mean, just an immense number of units. And we got up to big numbers of units. It just cratered and chugged. So they promised me that it's not, that's not indicative of the state of the code, that it's something to do with our setup. They're supposedly making me the latest build, and it'll all be fine. We'll see.
When's it out?
It's about 2 or 3 months away, I believe.
Okay.
There's going to be a demo though for it ahead of it. Chris Taylor told us that
There's going to be a demo. There's already multiplayer beta that's been out there, so you can check that out. So am I concerned about the fact that it didn't run on our rigs? Yeah, I mean, we're running Athlon 4000 pluses with 512 meg 7900 cards. It should run well on that. Is it possible that there's some configuration there that they haven't tested on yet?
Does it need Vista? Were you not trying it on that?
No. I wouldn't put it on Vista. Vista's still a performance hit. But so, I'll know next week. They're sending me a new build.
Wow, PC gamers might come back and listen.
Preview to come again.
I know. This is more PC content we've had in like a month.
I know. And next week, John and I'll be at CES.
Yeah,
and
it's all PC.
Just
nothing
set up
else going on.
We have cool PC 360 stuff crossover next week, don't we? To plug a little bit. Aren't we doing the Command and Conquer? We're playing CNC 360 next week before the show.
That's right. Before the show next week, and the producer of both the 360 version and the PC version will be right here on the podcast next week.
Wow.
Talking Command and Conquer. And
after we've played and shit on their game. That's going to be good. That's going to be exciting.
He actually probably gets to watch us shit on his game, I would assume. Because it's immediately prior to the podcast
maybe
that we play it, right?
we shit on it live.
Nice.
I have every confidence that it's very good, so maybe we'll be watching you shit on it.
Well, I believe I wrote a glowing preview of it back.
I think it looks very
right
good.
now. Bryce is picking up the phone and calling somebody like,
a
substantially sized soft spot for Command and Conquer. So
it looked beautiful when I saw it in Germany.
So I got to dig up a copy of Lord of the Rings so I can get back a custom. You know it's going to be the same control interface and everything, right?
Okay, you guys did not have kind words for that interface on this very podcast.
Well, we're all waiting to see what
really hope they don't
Halo
use
Wars.
that interface. I mean, the Battle for Middle Earth nonsense.
I thought you liked it.
No,
I think
were you not on this podcast?
I was on this. He was all optimistic about it at first.
Garnet was drinking.
That was before I played it.
Show.
Yeah.
That's good that you're optimistic before you play that. I should do that for this year.
Be optimistic before you play something. Yeah, that would be a nice change, Luke.
I start at 0 and they build from there. You start at the other end.
Should we talk about some threads before we go to the break?
We should definitely talk about some threads.
The message board.
A lot of stuff on the message boards. I'm just going to do a few and then dig into it a bit more next week. But Master Gamer 343 has a thread that I think over the next week is going to get very popular, picking 6 games of 2006 and making 7 predictions for 2007, which is a very nice, efficient little hook that he came up with.
That is a clever thread title too. That's good. Yeah. Well done.
So he's going to do very well. The Squadron of Shame is currently playing Indigo Prophecy.
Well, good for them because that was absolutely my game of 2005.
Did you finish it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hang on. Got the Garnet Indigo Defense Force about to assemble.
Yeah,
I finished it all 3 ways.
None of them.
That's a good night.
That is a damn good night right there.
Did it make any more sense after finishing it 3 ways?
No.
No, she still goes and gets a sandwich.
It's a fantastic game right up to the end, and then the end it's.
So there's a lengthy discussion there, which is the Squadron of Shame is being very deep. Papa Pichu actually started that one, so there's a good thread there. You can actually pick that game up really cheap now if you dig around, and the PC version. You can find for like $5-6.
I would definitely play it on console because I like the console interface and control.
Just using a pad is much better. Crispy 4001 has an underrated game of 2006 thread, which the softball to Luke, I believe.
That was from the pad joke that I didn't make.
He was going to reference what kind of products you might be using during that time of the month, but he elected not to.
It's better with a pad. I'm sorry.
That's terrible.
That's really awful.
That's awful.
I really didn't expect, menstruation.
Stop it.
Anyway, go ahead.
You're forbidden from speaking for the next 5 minutes.
What does he say the most underrated games?
He was Batten Kaitos Origins was his most underrated game of the year.
As the person in EGM who gave it a 7 and it got a 4 and a 5 by a bunch of fools who had no idea what they were doing, it is underrated.
Who would those fools be, by the way?
Those fools would be Michael Donahoe and James Milkey, who suck.
Your Virtua Fighter 5 rival.
Right. And BKO is completely underrated. It isn't awesome. I gave it a 7. It's good. It's very solid.
Mm-hmm.
But
he had a very lengthy discourse on why it was awesome, basically. So
It's not quite awesome, but it's good and respectable and worth playing.
But he is fueling a debate about underrated games of last year
There were
with
quite a
no
few.
panty liner commentary whatsoever.
I'm gonna have to jump into that thread. That's actually I always get interested in threads like that.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go there to talk about Elite Beat.
The
Not underrated.
It was game of the month in EGM.
and you've been saying it's game of the year. You even said to yourself, no one in particular, while wearing
Is
headphones.
the only person who would listen.
I heard.
The Connecticut Yankee has a how to improve one up yours in 2007 thread, which I assume one of you floated to the top.
Yeah, no, I did that.
I
I
actually
did that.
clicked on that thread.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff.
And by interesting, I mean idiotic. No, like 3 or 4 of you have had okay ideas.
Oh, thanks, Luke. Didn't I forbid you from speaking a minute ago?
How'd that work out for you?
Same as usual. My dingling.
What was that, John?
Where's the pad?
Looks okay from here.
My dingling asks, actually doesn't ask, he just poses the question. If Master Chief were black,
Who says he isn't?
who says he isn't?
He's
Luke,
not.
how
I'm
do you
saying
feel
he's-
about
I don't think he's black.
if
huh?
Master Chief takes off the helmet in Halo 3? What do you think's going to be inside, Luke?
I don't know. John 117 in the books is a freckled kid, a freckled white dude with gapped teeth. So I think that's probably what it'll look like, but it'll be older.
It's like Ron Howard.
The books are canon. Yeah.
Ron Howard now with
Or
the
that
bald.
dude from Mad Magazine.
I think you know
Alfred E. Newman.
exactly what she's gonna look like.
Yeah.
I think he should look like Luke Smith.
I
Well, this
hope
actually
not.
didn't. It isn't a thread about Master Chief necessarily. It's just about the fact that video games typically do tend to be, blue-eyed white guys.
The Aryan race.
that's true.
Shane,
Why-
as a,
why do
as
you
a
gotta
video
bring
game
that up?
character. But there's, Crackdown actually tackles this internationally in a way like that, right? Isn't
There's
there
a bunch
different
of
ethnicity in
there's a
different
bunch-
territories?
Yeah, there's different. No, there's different ethnicities in the disc right
Oh, really?
now. Yeah, you can choose a bunch of different.
But I think
Characters.
the lead character that they're sending out the screenshots with is in each territory,
Is
like
black,
for
right?
that territory. No,
Oh, okay.
in Asia, it's an Asian guy.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully that won't be an issue that much longer. I just think it's because people were lazy for a while.
think
Designers were just lazy and didn't do good character
Right.
design.
And then Indie cites a comment that Kojima made. I think Kotaku picked it up this week about Blu-ray being too small.
What?
Did you see this?
I did.
No.
Well, the current Blu-ray spec is only 25 gigs,
Yeah.
and I think he wants the new spec, and I'd imagine MGS will actually be on the 50
He's basically
gig
saying
disc.
that while he doesn't necessarily care that much about HD because he wants to sort of make the graphics gritty, he said there's a lot you can do with sound encoding that where you can fill up a Blu-ray disc really quickly.
Right.
Wow.
With like 7.1 sound.
So it'll be so that's MGS4, Xbox 360, 6 discs confirmed. Okay, I just want to make sure we're ahead of the game.
Wow. That's a hell of a way to head out of this segment. I hadn't heard that one. That's crazy. All right, so we'll be back in just a minute, and if you follow us onto the other side of that, you'll get the 4-minute warning. We've got 6 topics, 4 minutes each. We'll be back in a minute.
You're listening to One Up Yours, part of the One Up Radio Network.
Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. But as long as you're here, let me tell you about EGM Live, the weekly podcast from the editors of Electronic Gaming Monthly, along with the wonderful sounds of... EGM Live comes action-packed with special guests, late-breaking news, fanboy-baiting commentary, behind-the-scenes tales of office tomfoolery, and trivia contests with fantabulous prizes. Download it now at egmlive.oneup.com or subscribe to it through iTunes.
EGM Live is part of the One Up Radio Network, taped in the Ziff Davis offices in San Francisco. It is not actually live, and contest prizes are not guaranteed to be fantabulous.
All right, folks, and we're back. And just as a little quick reference, we're getting some energy going, and we're all glad to be back, right?
Sure.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, I said while I was away, some kids were talking about like, I can't wait for next week, and I just posted in that thread on our boards like, yeah, me too.
You have no idea. This is for us as much as it is for you guys. So there you go. We're into self-gratification on that. So 4-minute warning. Yeah, go ahead, Luke. Go ahead. Hit it. No,
it's okay. No, it's
hit
fine.
it.
It's okay.
Be sure.
Some of us more than others.
Can you self-gratify later
Yes.
in the privacy of a bathroom stall?
All right.
For
So
more than 4 minutes.
6 topics. We got 6 different folks this time. We're going to start off with one from DJ Funktastic. It's Question is, do you see Microsoft and Sony jumping into a more interactive control scheme for their next consoles?
Yes.
Oh, great.
Or this console.
Why?
Because of the success of Wii.
But what about the not success of 6-axis?
Well, no, here. Okay, let's be fair. I got this one.
All right, thanks.
It's a little early to say that the 6-axis has not been successful.
Okay,
It's
fair enough.
too early to say. Like, I've seen MotorStorm. You played it.
Yeah.
I saw Ryan O'Donnell playing MotorStorm.
I don't know how he does it. Because I
Okay.
tried it with the 6-axis.
I'm better without it, but Lair is an example. Lair, perfect use of 6-axis.
It's too early to decry the 6-axis controller as a failure. However, I will jump in and say that I don't think that all three will adopt a more interactive system. My hope is that Microsoft will continue, like while Sony is clearly strategically aping Nintendo going forward with their refocusing on first party, and they're like, oh, well, we'll be more interactive with our interface, and they're doing like things that Nintendo does but without the strength of a first party like Nintendo. Sony's going to continue to ape Nintendo going forward and hope that that's going to lead them to success. What I hope Microsoft does is continue to just sort of serve standard typical games and typical gaming solutions, and like, okay, a controller is a fine interface to use, and if Sony and Nintendo want to do simpler aesthetics and like Sony wants to ape the Wii more, then that's
Luke,
fine.
Do you not believe that Microsoft is currently working on a motion controller for the Xbox 360?
Oh, I'm sure that I absolutely sure they're working
You believe
on
that the controller that ships with a conceptual new Microsoft system would not support some sort of motion control?
Oh, whatever the successor is. But I think this generation, because they have more than just 360.
This says their next consoles. That's the question.
Right. So for that, but for the current gen, they have so much vested in just establishing the 360 control layout as a standard, because they're pushing it with Vista and all the games for Windows stuff. that they need to focus on that.
I see them putting out a motion controller, and I see them packing it in with 360s eventually.
But I think the other facet of this is the stuff that Molyneux was talking about at was it Leipzig?
It was in Leipzig, yep.
Where alongside the more interactive technology, there is a simplification of the interaction points. The more a lot of context sensitive stuff. We're already starting to see a little bit of it in games, but I think developers are going to move more towards that, where it's depending on where you are in the environment, a single button press does multiple things. Because all publishers right now, when you talk to these guys, they're obsessed with going mainstream and making games less complicated and making it so that anyone can pick it up and understand it. And in the absence of gesturing, one button is the next best thing.
Make the quality of content high enough that it draws people in, and you won't have to worry about fiddling with the control schema to make it work.
Did we miss this guy's question?
No, he's talking about next generation.
I still believe in yes. I think the incredible success of the Wii and DS are indicative of what we're seeing in the future.
Jumping more into interactive control, is Microsoft going to do it? Yes, I guess that would be more into it. But here's the thing, I don't buy into this whole mentality of you have to build a remote control that looks like a television remote in order to go mainstream. There's nothing wrong with controller. Playing games is playing games. It's not watching television. You're not just flipping the channels on the television. You're interacting with an environment. You're interacting with the game.
The iToy, the Guitar Hero controller, those are more interactive control schemes as well.
No, see, I would agree with that. I mean, I agree with that. I don't think that you'll see a strict copy of the Wii by.
But, I don't think the next generation of consoles we may see something with a touch. We'd all speculated that the DS technology would be what Nintendo would use with when it was the Revolution. There was a lot of speculation about it'll be a touchscreen control. It'll minimize the mechanical aspects and be more about a sort of digital thing where it's. We may see Microsoft go down that path with it.
If you're interacting with a really great game, how much do you really want to sit there anyway and be waving your hands all over the place every time you want to play a game and gesturing all over the place? Dual sticks works well. Make a good controller, make compelling content, and I'll learn how to play the game.
Well, I think that before you see people adopt this motion sensing thing on a grander scale, that Nintendo is going to have to prove that this works beyond this initial success that we've seen. It's going to have to prove that it works in a longer term capacity. You're going to have to see third parties being successful with on the platform.
Moving on.
Right, and I think that you'll see some of that as we talk about this next question, who's from Captain Glanton, and here's his question: are games becoming too dumbed down in a rush to meet the lowest common denominator? That's Wii games and non-games.
I don't know that it's too dumbed down necessarily. I think that the Wii has every opportunity sort of to kill video games as hardcore gamers know them. To sort of, if the Wii is this colossal success, and you will see a company like Sony like aping that and nicking that and simplifying things, like there will be the decline of the hardcore gamer is entirely a future that you could be thinking about.
Yeah.
And you should be thinking about. And if that happens, then I'm done with video games because I don't want a bunch of fucking Wii Sports. That's stupid to me.
Sony already went down this path. If you've ever played Wishy Washy, they were doing it. How long ago was that? 4 years ago?
4 years ago.
So I mean, there was the division. There was what's his name? The guy that does iToy, Richard Marks. His division at Sony, that R&D department, have been working on little experiences like this for years now. I think it's going to get more popular.
Yeah, I think this once again the success of DS and Wii is going to trickle down, and we're going to see simpler games. I think we're still going to see the hardcore games, and
I hope we do.
Yeah, we're not going to shooters aren't going to become like, oh, you just press one button, But I think like even like MotorStorm, I think wow, this game's really simplified. Like there's no speedometer on the screen because all they care about is like you're having fun, you're racing.
But I actually found
maybe there's a speedometer in the US version. That Japanese version a little thin.
That would be a new addition.
But that said, the 6-axis stuff we were talking about, I don't think it added to the simplicity. In fact, I thought the 6-axis made it a harder experience because those gesture-based things actually don't lend themselves to fine control unless you're specifically pointing at something. But trying to hold, particularly a buggy that's bouncing around on dirt, steady with a joypad that you're holding in front of you and trying to mimic being a wheel, it just doesn't feel right. And I borrowed Ryan's save and we stuck it on a memory stick and I took it home, and his setup was with the motion control, and every time I would boot it up, it threw me because I thought the sticks were broken or my controller was not working because we were running all those stories at the time.
Your Molly News citation, the thing that you talked about with just pressing A in context to what's going on in the game, that plays a lot into this, our game's becoming too dumbed down, and that could definitely be a eventuality for that sort of content. For instance, one of the things that people got on me about when I reviewed Dreamfall was that I didn't enjoy Dreamfall as a game because there was no game to it. It was an interactive storytelling experience, but the game part of it was so poorly executed.
But there's a line between that and what Molyneux was talking about, and you could still have a contextual control scheme where there's still skill involved.
That's
look at Prince of Persia. A lot of the controls in Prince of Persia were contextual. You weren't using all 12 buttons on the PS2 pad to control the prince. When you were wall running and in combat, everything was basically 2 buttons and the stick.
And the reason people loved it because it felt right. It was very natural. And you just played it.
That's where the refinement and the skill of development is going to come. Is make it so that the control scheme is transparent. I mean, we don't need to get hung up on this contextual nature. It just needs to be that the game needs to do what I want to be able to do without me having to think about it.
Right, and so for console gaming, we don't need to keep adding more buttons to console controllers, and we don't need to, at the other end, we don't need to strip down and go to just gesturing based. It needs to be played in context with what the game is, not necessarily, what's going on the screen.
But I would argue that like the Wii does not mean like dumbed down gameplay, because I actually think that Zelda has better and more complex and more interesting gameplay on Wii than it does on GameCube.
How so?
Because of the fun of doing motion control, and it's easier to do some of the moves, and it feels more interactive.
I think it's easier to do the spin attack. Obviously,
Definitely.
The spin attack is a lot easier on the Wii, but.
Do you find that it makes it more intuitive, though, to shake the nunchuck?
Yes.
I hate that word.
Yes,
I hate that word
What?
so much. Intuitive. It's like the way that it's been like sort of thrown around with the Wii. Like, listen, you're still wagging your
natural.
hand.
Is it natural? To
Right,
you?
exactly.
Example of intuitive is like Wii Tennis or Wii Bowling. Like the difference between bowling with the Wiimote versus like pressing a bunch of buttons to do the same thing. It's actually better gameplay.
But the skill and development is going to be like the DS stuff, where it's finding the natural controller.
Right. So I'm rearranging the questions here because we're kind of picking up on some flow. I'm going to go next to Pip King's question, which is, where do you see the industry going in the distant future? Far-flung predictions, existence style.
Holodecks. I still think we're gonna have like visors, and you're in a game. I mean, that's obviously the thing. Like when you're playing a game, and we're getting there with games that look very realistic.
Well, he missed Dave and Buster's, didn't he?
But like real ones where it looks like real life.
Right.
A game where it looks like real life and you're in it. That's
Oh my god, I could be the Master Chief?
Yes.
Yeah, long
Yes.
term, it's got to be. It's not you sat in front of a screen.
Right.
There's some other way of the
Right.
experience being communicated to you,
It's an IV.
jacked into your brain stem.
But that's what the
PS9.
Existenz is a good example. You haven't seen that film. It's Cronenberg, and it's quite fun actually.
So maybe not quite so far down the road. I'm gonna go in a little bit different tact, which is that I think that you're going to see the games business start to segregate into segments, much like you've seen televised entertainment or movie entertainment. You can watch a drama, you can watch it on television, you can watch it as a serial event, you can watch it as soap opera, you can watch it on a movie screen, and I think you'll see the same sort of different degrees of entertainment on video games. You'll see casual games, and you'll see dumbed down games, for lack of a better word, just to kind of play into that on certain kinds of consoles, and you'll see that kind of content playing to one audience, and you'll see really sophisticated games playing to a different audience through a different piece of hardware.
How long do you think we'll have 3 consoles?
That's right now.
I was going to say, like,
I think
That's right now, but it's immature.
Garnet just described 2007
Yeah.
for...
You know what? I don't know that I described 2007 because I think that it's really, really immature. I think that this is like in the next 3 years, next 2 or 3
How long do you
years.
think we'll see 3 platform holders?
2 years.
However long this generation lasts.
Do you think at the end of this gen there'll be 2?
Yeah.
Which 2?
That's a hard call right now, but I think one of them will be Microsoft, just because they got deeper pockets right now.
I agree with that.
So will someone else enter the platform race going forward, do you think?
God, anyone that did it now would be stupid, unless they acquired one of the others. I mean, I think there's potential there.
As PC and 360 merge, what's the use of a console?
Yeah, I mean, it
has to be something. It has to be something beyond a typical game experience.
Yeah,
Is what it has-
a
is
lot
what
of
it has
it
to
is.
be.
I mean, you look at any of the consumer electronics things that are maturing. I mean, like phones aren't really phones anymore. They're these
Convergence devices.
Convergence device.
communications. I mean, like the phone aspect of it is just a small part. I mean, you bought a blackjack before Christmas. The talking on the phone part is such a minor.
It's the last thing.
The last thing that you bought it for. I mean, did you even ask how good it was as a phone when you bought it?
I didn't care. It did all kinds of other cool shit.
But I think games are going to go that way. It's like there's 2 arguments to it. There's the entertainment hub thing, which I think is misguided. I don't think anyone really buys a console as an entertainment hub, but as a thing to plug into the screen that you can go and find your entertainment. I think and whoever gets this on-demand stuff that everyone's fooling around with, whoever gets it, so that there's a box you plug into your TV and you can go, I want to watch a movie, I want to watch. Without having to stick a disc in and without having to do anything. It's just you go to a menu and it's...
I mean, would you agree that right now the PS3 is the best hardware for that in terms of size of the hard drive and ease of use?
I think the storage issues, there's how the storage... I mean, we kicked around earlier this year when is Microsoft going to do the remote storage where you don't have to download everything locally, that you own a license to a bunch of content that exists on a server somewhere,
like
and you just have access to it.
The future, yeah. Like instead of having to upgrade your stuff all the time.
There's also a recent report that theoretically terabyte-sized hard drives are now going to be in the near future. So something like that could be possible. I think that what's going to happen ultimately is you're going to see a convergence. You have to see it. We laugh about HD DVD versus Blu-ray, but PS3 format versus Xbox format is a much bigger division and has a much deeper impact on our entertainment business. When that goes away and we can just talk about gaming and not talk about platform gaming, that'll be a whole other segment. That'll be the next phase. All right, so that was that. Okay, taking a little bit different direction, Symphony asked us, if you weren't working in the games industry, what sort of job do you think you'd have?
Well, that's a totally...
Oh, boy.
I don't know.
Shane, why don't you start?
Sidetrack.
Wow.
You would be in Kentucky?
When I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut or a chef or a cowboy.
The last one doesn't surprise me at all. What is that, once a month?
Sequins and white...
I have an English degree. I thought about being a teacher for a while, but I realized I don't like kids that much. Yeah.
But yet you pick out names for your own.
I do. But I could also see myself in like the film industry or the music industry or any other media field. I'm really interested in all types of media.
Okay.
Who's next?
I actually wrote about like media and culture before media and culture. I wrote about plays in Dearborn, Michigan. No, I covered like arts and entertainment all throughout college. I would probably be doing something in that field, probably like Shane was just saying, like something in media, writing for some shitty small outlet in the Midwest.
Rock band.
There was the rock band career, which was cut short by this career. Technically, I am actually still on my year off before I go to college.
Before you go to college?
Yeah, so I left school and I was going to take 12 months off to go and get some money. And I had a placement at Warwick University in the UK to do psychology.
So you might go back.
And
Wait.
this was
So you just got distracted after
18 years ago. I got a little distracted from my aspirations in the psychology area, but writing was always something that I wanted to do. So I would hope that in some form I would be writing about something, but the psychology thing could have led to.
Or you could be rocking out. That's the other option.
I could have been rocking out. Yeah.
You've been banging tons of chicks.
So I don't
You've had other careers. Like you're all.
Garnet's old enough that this is his like 8th or 9th real job.
Well, no, I don't know about that, but I'm a degreed landscape architect, and I did that gig for a while.
And an oil baron.
I ran an image department for an oil company for a while, yeah. And so, this is definitely the best career I've ever had. This pie in the sky shit. I mean, if I was to just like off the cuff, obviously I'm doing what I love. The other thing would probably be go to culinary school and be a chef.
Chef Boyardee.
Oh, yeah. I do enjoy cooking.
We could all be chefs.
Yeah.
Or possibly contract killers. I thought about that too.
Oh,
And
that'd be quite, if you did it in the right way, it'd be quite glamorous, I suppose.
I think it's cool that you have a landscape architect degree. That was actually one of the things when I was doing landscaping all throughout college. I was like, man, this is kind of cool.
You still got the chops?
I could design people's yards.
Because that garden needs some work, yeah.
so bad news for you. That's a landscape designer, landscape architect, a whole other.
You have to build shit.
And build shit. And
It's like
urban planning, campus planning.
You can build a hill in my garden.
Actually, my dad and I built a 7-ton boulder wall in my front yard that I designed and architected.
Wow.
Yeah, at the end of the summer.
I'm glad I went to school for 5 years to get that sheepskin. Wow, that's fantastic.
There was one
It's
of
a
the
pretty
sim
impressive
one
wall,
of the
too,
sim
but you
games
say
was
so.
very sort of micromanagey at this kind of level, wasn't it? Wasn't there one of the Maxis games that let you mess with
Sim Garden or something, right?
There was one where you could do like
Sim
houses
Ant?
and
Nice. 5 years of college reduced to a joke, to a 2-minute joke on a podcast. It's fucking fantastic.
2 minutes is a little bit.
no,
beyond
I'm not meaning to belittle it. I'm like, but there have been experiences that presumably.
Whatever. He didn't go to college.
I didn't go to college. I'm still
Talk
waiting.
down to him.
Technically, I think I might still have a placement open for me. I mean,
Use layman's terms.
I would say the most awesome part about having gone through the architecture discipline was the classic design training and all the stuff that you go through on the artistic side to learn the basic fundamentals of artists' fundamentals in design and things like the golden rule and all that kind of stuff that applies to.
what's the golden rule?
Do unto others as they do unto
No,
you.
that's
right?
not. Let's talk about design rules.
Yeah, I'm talking about design rules. And
golden rule?
I have no idea anymore. I can't.
That was like 30,
I can
40
tell.
years.
I can tell you the basics of it, and someone will jump on
Class of 65.
Someone will jump onto the forums and tell us, but it's a proportionality rule that applies to what makes the eye.
Yeah, it's
Oh my
very
god!
interesting.
I hope we have
right.
that new enhanced podcast segment stuff.
So, Symphony, I hope that satisfied you. Anyway,
That we're already crap at answering that question, I think.
yeah. Well, what's cool? I think that all of us agree that like at least this is like what we want to do more than anything else in
yeah,
the world.
it's
So
the dream.
This is the dream job. So there you go. So let's move on to Grilled Sirloin, who asked,
I was thinking about ordering you like dinner.
All right,
"Is there any hope for the point-and-click adventure
a
game?"
little tiny bit.
Man,
Really?
Yes, on DS.
On DS,
4 minutes of this.
on DS,
point.
and I think on Wii. If people really
Yeah.
wanted like a Virtual Console, like they should put all the Scum games on Virtual Console. How fun would that be?
I wrote about it a long time ago. Like the Wii would be a really great outlet for games like a point-and-click adventure or a game where your hand is the Wiimote and you're like navigating that
Yep.
space with the left stick, moving your character through the space, and then like, oh, what's under this? What's
Well,
under this
doesn't
coffee
Metroid
cup?
do that a little bit? With
does,
the opening
but
a door and.
I think there's actually a good chance because Nintendo has worked with this one developer. I think their name is Sing. They did Trace Memory, which wasn't all that great, and they did Hotel Dusk, which is apparently really, really great, which comes out in like a month. And they make point-and-click
So
adventure
that's the
games.
detective one, right?
Right, and they work with Nintendo, so I think there's a good chance that they would make a point-and-click adventure game for Wii.
Yeah, I talked to Donahoe about it on the train. We met. We just happened to be on
He's
BART
in
at the
love
same
with that
time.
game. I mean, like
going home on Christmas Day, and he was like, "Dude, that game was amazing."
Yeah, so-
he just started to just
So
rub
Grilled
it
Sirloin,
out.
if you like point-and-click adventure games, go pre-purchase Hotel Dusk. You will love it.
Plus,
You'll be one of the 5.
the point-and-click adventure evolved a lot, and I mean, to be honest, the closest thing that's been big has been Indigo Prophecy, which is a sort of natural progression of that. Where, I mean, even Grim Fandango, it wasn't pointing and clicking; you were moving death around in that.
And everybody who loved
interacting with
Dreamfall
things.
is now going to kill you for that.
What?
For
It's
missing
just
their game.
Greg Casavin, and he's gone anyway.
I didn't play Dreamfall. I played Indigo and I played Grim Fandango. I mean, like, but I mean, there are still. Its influence is still felt in places, but I think people are nostalgic for what they remember as a point-and-click adventure, which was moving your cursor over the screen and sort of randomly trying to find. In fact, there's a bunch of stuff in IGF this year where there are games built in Flash, which are actually very arty variations on a point-and-click
What was
adventure.
that thing you linked me to yesterday?
It had some weird name.
Summer Rats or something like that?
Yeah, and it's one of the front runners in IGF.
Which is the Independent Games Festival.
And so there's a lot of this stuff where it doesn't communicate through text or speech. Everything is very contextual within the environment, and it'll present you with a scene, and like the old point-and-click adventures, you find the interaction points, and you have to actually work out what the puzzle of the screen is by seeing what the things that you can click on actually do, and then you have to work out what the path this character has to take through the screen. And it's an adventure in that way, but there's no narrative to it. It's just... So, but again, the core mechanic is basically what LucasArts and Sierra was doing 20 years ago.
I think the answer to his question for me is there hope for it? No, not in what you're talking about and just pointing and clicking stuff, because that was a function of what the technology then could do to make an interactive story.
But as a linear narrative that you don't have direct control over the character, I think phones, I think DS, I think a lot of non-traditional gaming platforms, not sitting in front of a console and try. I don't think you're going to see it on PS3 or Xbox, but I mean, even Sam & Max is doing it again.
People smashed me for it, but I had very high hopes for Dreamfall, and I think that what you will see ultimately is the point-and-click adventure will work by someone who's able to have enough technical chops to make a game out of a linear adventure storytelling game that has all the components, including good gameplay.
Did any of you guys play the Broken Sword games?
Back in the day, yeah.
Well, they did one like 2 years ago.
Didn't play that one.
What they did is that, again, it was like Indigo Prophecy, where it was borrowing some stuff from Tomb Raider in a way, where you were controlling the main character, and the scenes were very limited. It wasn't a full 3D environment, and you could only move within what it gave you. But again, you weren't moving the mouse and clicking on things anymore. You were controlling the character and going to interaction points. But when you think of it that way, I mean, even Resident Evil, Alone in the Dark, they were building on that idea.
And first-person, I got to add this, even though you're linked this, and first-person shooters, even, you see much more emphasis on story. You see much more emphasis on interaction. It's all sort of coming together into a more interactive storytelling experience.
Yep.
Is there another one?
There's one last one from Thaumaticus. So you can't port PS3 games to the PSP. So how will the PS3's release affect the PSP, and especially how will it affect original content?
We can hope
PSP?
there'll be more originals for PSP. I think there's a weird new trend, though. We're going to see like games on Wii and PSP. That's a creepy new trend.
Well, I think it's going to be a little different than that. I think it's going to be Wii and PS2.
Wii, PS2, and PSP.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'll be like a porting porn star gangbang who gets the seconds, thirds. It's going to be gross.
Are you referring to the development environment? Or
the development environment on these platforms.
We should start a studio called Porn Star Gangbang.
Or how about just like third input?
Sloppy thirds.
Sloppy thirds.
Yeah.
Backdoor games.
I mean,
see, those are too obvious. Third input is like
third input.
That's sublime.
Quit your joking. So, of what do we know about 07 titles? There are some exciting originals for PSP. There are some ports
in the next EGM, right?
There are some.
There's excitement.
There's always excitement in EGM, but yeah, there is
well
stuff.
Put. Yeah, good job.
You will still see ports. You'll see ports of older games. You'll see some original games, but overall, I hope more originals. That's what PSP really needs.
Well, the bigger question for Thaumaticus is, what is the impact of the PSP continuing to struggle against the DS in Japan?
It's dead. It's done. It lost. It's over. Well, it's the Xbox 360 handheld in Japan.
And what's that going to do to it? That's the bigger question.
Well, I think the bigger problem facing the PSP is redesigning it and getting rid of UMD because it's a dead format.
Yeah. So, I think we'll see that this year. I mean, I know we're changing his question,
we'll see it. I don't know if it'll come to retail or not.
You think they'll show it this year?
I think they will.
I wonder what environment they'll choose to do it, because they're clearly not doing it at CES and it's too early.
Maybe Gamers Day? Maybe their own event. That I heard that they were thinking about trying to do Gamers Day in Hawaii this year.
But the difficult thing for Sony is that they have this legacy with UMD, where can they just turn their back and say, hey, if you are a PSP owner and you have this library of games, we're just not going to support that anymore. I mean, that doesn't seem to be Sony's style.
Well, a redesigned or sequel to PSP could still have the UMD slot on it. That doesn't mean they're going to continue to make games for it.
Right. But it would be... I mean, I think they have to move to solid state, download only.
Right. Yeah.
I suspect in the near term, before they do get another device out, that one of the ways that they will overcome the not being able to go with the same game between the two devices is to have interactivity, much like they'd like to do with GameCube and GBA.
Well, what I was
But they
going to
only
say
did
was,
that a couple of times, right? There was the Zelda game, and
It's called interoperability on the PSP.
wouldn't it be a smart way?
Thanks, Ken. I mean, Shane.
Wouldn't it be a smart way to launch a new Sony handheld once the PS3's install base is high enough, and having it be a downloadable system where you're
true
using
PSP2.
the PS3 like a conduit, where
Yes.
you're incentivizing the purchase of a PS Portable 2
Yes.
based on a PS3 ownership? That seems like that would be a pretty obvious, pretty easy.
a little
way to
early
get
for. I
people
mean,
into-
it's only 2 years old.
well, it's a little early for it, and that's what I'm saying. Is
Was
that,
a little early
that-
for the Xbox.
Well,
But it-
no, I
But that was
mean,
at least 4 years.
But it's been losing ground for the last year.
Yeah.
John.
I mean, like a PSP2 though. I mean, what Sony should probably do with it is wait until the PS3 installs. If they're going to tie it to the PS3 via like a digital
Yeah.
downloadable system, like we have that conduit system now, like the smart move is to wait and hope that the brand name of
Right.
Sony installs you in a significant amount of households.
and the PSP isn't a disaster. The DS is a huge success. I mean,
yeah, that's the other thing.
Right.
Like the PSP is still that retarded kid on a bike getting hit by a semi, but that retarded kid still he can pedal.
bizarre analogy.
That was interesting.
I think that if the question is it still valid as a gaming platform, I'm going to actually go an unexpected direction and say, yeah, it is, because there's enough PSP content that if you have a PSP, there's plenty now to play on the console.
And there will be
have fun
games
with it.
in 07 that even if you don't have a PSP,
Oh my God.
you're going to want one
Here we go.
for these games.
Yep, remember in 2006 I was buying a PS3 because of one game that Shane said was going out.
What was that game?
No.
don't know.
Halo? What? I don't know.
Motorstorm, maybe? I don't know.
Still doesn't exist, does it?
God. That's it, right?
That's the end. We've reached the
it.
end of the second segment, which means about 60 seconds. We'll be back. Come back on the other side. We'll have all the news. Talk to you in a minute.
Can't get enough of DL.TV? Then download our podcast. Just go to DL.TV and click on the audio link.
Turning them loose.
You'll be able to listen to Patrick, Robert, and the rest of the gang over and over and over again.
Remember to keep the ear canal clean and don't share if you don't want to risk spreading disease.
Want more Extreme Tech? Well, now you can join the crew of expert analysts for a weekly podcast. They'll give you the lowdown on the latest technology news, product reviews, and let you know what's coming up. Just go to extremetech.com to subscribe.
All right, we're back for the final segment of the first show of 2007 with Luke, here with news, including a segment for me.
A special segment devoted to Garnet on
Segment for me.
next gen DVD technology.
It's all mine.
New disc may sway DVD wars. This is via news.com via the New York Times. Consumers wary of buying a new high definition or new DVD players because of a technology war reminiscent of the days of Betamax versus VHS will soon have a new kind of DVD that may make the decision less daunting. Warner Brothers is making like a hybrid type DVD that can function as both and function in both HD, DVD, and Blu-ray
Is this
player.
related to the LG player that plays both?
No.
Wow, but it's like a perfect segue.
But it's going to go great because now the Best Buy has to stock 3 formats
Yeah, HD DVD, Blu-ray, and
and hybrid, whatever it is.
the hybrid format.
Well, and there's also another a Blu-ray DVD hybrid that's coming out because that hasn't existed so far. HD DVD hybrids do exist currently.
So the dual format HD DVD Blu-ray player, which is the South Korean firm LG made, which is what you were just referencing, that player is going to be on display next week at CES. So Garnet, next
Checking
week
it out?
at CES, I want you to check it out, and then I want you to ask someone who knows, and I want you to ask them about it, and then come
Bonus
back
points if you know what LG stands for.
Lucky Gold Star. As an aside,
Bonus points for Shane.
as an aside,
Wow.
you might not have reported on. I don't remember, but the Chinese government announced they have their own high definition disc format debuting this year.
Is this a joke?
No, this is
Okay.
real, and China's a huge market, and all movies are going to come out on this Chinese format
Wow.
that is not compatible with Blu-ray or HD DVD.
Oh, well, thank God.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
To stay sort of in the non-console specific area of the news, Capcom has hired a Hollywood liaison, and it's because they're going to make a new Street Fighter movie, which is pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. You guys like the last Street Fighter movie?
Kylie Minogue and Van Damme.
Raul Julia's final performance.
The next Street Fighter movie is going to focus on Chun-Li, which, I mean, okay, here's the thing. Like, who cares that they're making a Street Fighter movie?
Who played Chun-Li in the old movie? Can you remember?
Ming Na.
It was?
My God, dude! Like what I said about the break about your nerdiness. Well, Jesus, IMD Shane.
Wow.
So
who played Blanca? Come on, I'm testing you now. Who played Blanca?
Some no name. Blanca was in the movie for like 3 minutes.
Already?
Yeah.
That's double the average length.
I also don't remember who played Captain Sawada either.
Oh, good grief.
But anyway,
are we done with this yet?
I mean, so if they're gonna
next, we'll be talking about Star Wars mythology.
If Capcom's working on a new Street Fighter movie, don't you think that they're probably? I mean, what would you package with a movie? A new game?
I think Street Fighter fans have a lot to look forward to in 2007.
Like to
Street Fighter: The Adventure Game.
Message board forums to today's show. Research and markets. Shane, ready? The Sony PS3.
I wonder if any former editors would be involved in something like that.
You never know.
Research and markets. The Sony PS3 is expected to win the console war
by the year
2010. 75 million installed. This is an analyst report from Ireland.
That's great. So by 2010, they'll be winning the console war in Ireland, while the rest of us are playing the next generation of consoles. That's fantastic.
I thought that PS4 was due in 2010. Wasn't that what Phil Harrison said back during the summer? Digital downloads only. Let's go from Phil Harrison right to Sony. Force feedback on the PS3. You guys like it for your racing games? John Garnett, huge racing nerds.
Mm-hmm.
Gran Turismo 5, Garnett, very excited, stoked.
So I saved bringing that point up because I knew you were going to talk about this. It's huge.
Not so much.
It's
Force
huge.
feedback.
Not even through USB.
No.
As Sony today, all PS3 games. This is from SCEA. All PS3 games are programmed for the 6-axis, which doesn't have force feedback. Therefore, the force feedback in the wheels won't be recognized. Listen, just for a second. It's the sound of people buying 360s in Forza.
It is. It absolutely is. And what's most frustrating about this continuing diatribe about, it's programmed for the 6-axis and motion control, blah, 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 is stop stoning us. Either cop to the fact that you haven't sold with immersion or don't, but stop stoning us. Talk about it. Come clean on the whole thing, because you know what? Gran Turismo has to have force feedback.
Guess what? Gran Turismo's not going to.
You know what? I'll say it right now. It will. It will be settled.
It will. Sony will license on Nintendo stuff.
I mean, it's possible.
It will be settled, and they will have it.
Either Sony's going to settle, or they develop something else like Nintendo did. Nintendo was like, we're not going to settle with you. We make our own.
Yeah, Sony could be developing their own proprietary Rumble format that'll work out.
It won't be Rumble. They will have True Force. Come on, guys. This is the game for which the Logitech wheel exists.
Okay, Garnet. You just sit there with your Believe pen on your desk.
On that one, there are enough people who will buy the console just to play that game to justify it.
Garnet, I also want to bereave.
Whatever.
So Hideo Kojima has said that Metal Gear Solid 4 will. As someone said that Metal Gear Solid 4 will be his last, the last Metal Gear. He said
God, again?
No, that's
how many times have we interviewed that guy and he said that?
No, this is just
he has trouble saying goodbye.
It's just the segue to the story, you dicks.
Goodbye. I don't know why you say goodbye.
There are no R's in goodbye, at least. Portable Ops will probably get a sequel, according to...
it's doing well.
Ryan Payton, our friend who was chatting on the PlayStation Magazine podcast. If it's successful on a retail level, there will definitely be a sequel. And it was very successful, if I recall the Media Crate numbers in Japan.
Well, and actually,
did very well.
Konami said it's doing similarly well here in America.
Wait, isn't that the game that you said that you wish it were just a movie so you wouldn't have to play the game?
Yeah, Metal Gear Solid. I think it's MetalGearSolid.org has all of them up. Because Ryan was back in town, and I was talking to him about it, and I said, listen, I really want to play our game. I tried to play it on the plane ride home.
It's a little convoluted.
The actual gameplay part, please release the PS2 version, please, because I will play through it on PS2. I want to play through it.
Its biggest problem isn't the game; it's the device.
PS2.
It's the device.
Yeah.
It's the game I want to love. The device is preventing it from happening. That's kind of that's.
But no more Metal Gears after 4, huh?
Well, I mean, here's the thing: if they're not doing a Metal Gear after 4, but they're making a portable game, then it'll live on again for PS4.
Kojima wants to give somebody else the reins eventually.
He does have trouble letting go.
So they'll have Metal Gear Episodic.
Maybe. God. Well, it worked for VHS. I don't know that it's going to work for Nintendo, though. Porn sites are starting to adapt their website interface for the Wii. Garnet is amazed.
This is a porn site, though, right? Not porn sites, plural.
A certain website, yeah. We didn't actually link to the website in the story. I wish we had. something we can check for research, right?
I do remember the URL if people want to know.
Care to share?
It was Tiava, Tiava. There's a browser detect on the Wii. We did actually research this.
We should put a video up, I think, in game videos. Let's get Mark McDonald on that. Google Maps plus Wii codes equal instant friends. That cumbersome ass, janky friend code. Garna, what's your friend code? 037.
What's your 16-digit number?
928743262. Oh no, the second 2 was wrong. Oh, okay.
Wait, you have to add me too, or else we can't.
Yeah, or we can't all play together. I mean, Nintendo Online doesn't matter.
If
obviously.
I could find a fucking Wii, I would know what you were talking about.
Well, let me tell you, it's really hard if you're a child predator. You're not going to be finding kids on the Wii.
Unless you use Google Maps. The Last Boss website points to the application in question called mapwii.com. That's all one word, MAPWII. At the moment, it's pretty much a nifty like Flash version of Google Maps. But what it's going to be is like you select your point of origin. So we would select San Francisco, and it'll spit out a bunch of Wii codes for people in the area. So you can just randomly add people.
How does it find them?
You like enter
your
information
IP?
and stuff. No, like
So those of you that don't have a Wii will know where to scout in order to go and steal one.
The January Virtual Console lineup was announced. It's going to include Kid Icarus, Zelda 2, Fire Emblem, Mario Kart 64, Game Ground, Alien Crush, R-Type 2. Oh, yeah,
Wait,
that's awesome. Isn't that awesome?
Is this for America?
Yeah. No. This is the Japanese list. These guys are getting
I
awesome
see.
games. You know what we got? I got it right here for you. Baseball and Urban Champion.
Urban Champion is. I tried to give that game a 0, and Mark McDonald wouldn't let me. Famously in EGM.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wouldn't let me.
But yeah, that's what we got from Nintendo this week. That's pretty exciting, right?
Hey, what'd you get from Microsoft?
I'm just
this
about to
week
get
there,
to it.
Luke?
That's the next story.
Oh, okay,
it's
just
not even on the
curious,
rundown.
just
Yeah, you got a
curious.
game called Jack Squat. All right.
Xbox Live Wednesday?
Yeah, Xbox Live Wednesdays. You know what? Yeah, not so much. And what happened?
They never promised us.
Well, and that's the thing. Their official statement was this, and I'm going to translate it for you after I read it. It's always been our intention to release new Xbox Live Arcade content on Wednesdays, as it is ready, which doesn't necessarily mean we'll have new content every week. The frequency of content will vary as games move from production to certification and are made ready for release. Xbox Live Arcade Wednesdays refers to the fact that there's a fixed day and time for all Xbox Live Arcade releases worldwide. Wednesdays at 8:01 a.m. GMT. So what that means is that Defender, it didn't make certification.
So I'm just curious what the reaction.
I'm not being funny.
So, Luke, I'm just curious what the reaction's been on the community. Are people okay with this? We're like, whatever. We'll get something good eventually. Or in the same time, when Nintendo Wii is getting a lot of these cool old games like Castlevania and Mario and Zelda, and PS3 is getting like Gran Turismo HD and Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection.
God, it's like are you sitting in my lap?
I'm not. No.
I hope not.
Actually, yeah, it looks like he is.
But so is the community like up in arms? Are they pissed off? Are they willing to be every other week is cool?
Well, here's the thing, like we talked about throughout the course of last year, even was like Microsoft had a really unique opportunity with Live Arcade. They had an opportunity to galvanize and capitalize in the space before the Virtual Console got there. And while the Virtual Console in America compared to the Japanese Virtual Console kind of sucks, like there's still 2 games this week that came out on the Virtual Console.
And a lot of weeks there's like 4.
Yeah, and like the weeks before, it's been like 4, 4, 3. I mean, this is a space. And what would be great would be to have someone from the Live Arcade group come sit in on the show and sort of answer and own up to what is happening.
Well, and there's also the 50 meg download limit. That's a problem.
The certification process, I think we're going to continue to see causing problems for some of these games. And part of that is that these games are all online enabled for the most part. And they are actually, they're adding some sort of like new functionality to these retro games. Where Nintendo, to be fair, is just sort of like shitting out these perfect ports.
Right, that's right.
They're still perfect.
And interestingly, we talk about Xbox Live having an opportunity to capitalize on this environment of selling games and downloadable games and that sort of thing. But one of the things we talk about when we talk about Xbox is original content and new content and exciting stuff like that. Whereas with Wii, we're constantly their ace in the hole is this enormous library of legacy games that you have a soft spot in your heart for.
Well, Microsoft's hoping, and the language that they use at Game Fest and the language that they're continuing to use is that their XNA initiative will make Live Arcade function like the YouTube and like the YouTube of video games. And there was a story that circulated on Thursday. I saw it on GAF first, and then talked with Microsoft about it a little bit, about a game called like Eternity's Child.
So it's a 2D platform.
And they said it was coming to Xbox Live Arcade. Well, it's in fact not coming to Xbox Live Arcade. That's a misnomer. Ross Erickson posted on a message board, and he's one of the Xbox Live Arcade game group guys. He said this game never crossed my desk. He's like the worldwide group portfolio manager, which means if it's coming to Live Arcade, dude has seen it. He knows, and it's not. So what I said, I updated Patrick's story with saying like this game Eternity's Child, which was developed on the XNA architecture, that whole XNA initiative, it's sort of the first product that we've really seen from it. That's not going to be a part of Xbox Live Arcade, but what you can pretty much take to the bank on it being a part of is a new form of Live Arcade that they have talked about before called the Community Arcade. And in the Community Arcade is that YouTube environment that Microsoft's envisioning. It is the place that these Live Arcade games that are being developed on XNA are going to go, and they're going to live in that
more
space.
Like user-created
so
content.
It's without a certification process, as long as they meet certain criteria.
I think there'll still be some sort of certification process, but I don't think it'll be anything nearly as arduous or labor-intensive as what you're seeing with a
nothing
typical
too
arcade.
offensive.
Yeah, well, this guy's game, the Eternity's Child game, it's a single-player game. It doesn't have live support. Who knows if it's even got achievements built into it. It will probably, the Community Arcade will be free of these like statutes of limitations that are being placed on the Live Arcade. So yeah, expect that game, expect it to appear. Microsoft told us that they're going to make an announcement about that particular game in the coming weeks, and I think that you're going to see, soon you're going to see the emergence of the Community Arcade.
It's going to be sooner rather than later. That's good.
The Community Arcade is going to come to fruition sooner than you think, and sooner is being discussed right now. To talk about the Christmas sales, I mean, NPDs aren't out yet. By this time next week's show, it would be great if we could get the NPD to sponsor it. It would be really awesome. That'd be fantastic.
Special December NPD edition.
The special holiday NPD figures show. Because if early reports are to be believed, Microsoft may have actually sold about 2 million units during the holiday cycle across November and December, with the Wii selling 1.8 million and Sony, according to the numbers.
I saw a different analyst today who was saying more 1.6 though for 360. And more Wii's than expected and fewer PS3s or something. People are saying different things.
And then, there's been lots of variations because some analysts are saying, the PS3 did better than you think.
Right.
Well, isn't Sony saying it did better than you think?
Well, then today someone said Wii did better than... Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Well,
we'll know next week.
Who do we believe?
Yeah, next week, I think by next week we should have NPDs. It'll be... Yeah. God, I can't wait. I love NPD Day. One of the first sort of big story of the year was that the Rare founders, the Stampers, left Rare to pursue other opportunities.
That was a big story. That was good story.
That was and they left because you said the non-competes.
Well, yeah, I had actually heard like over a year ago that the Stampers wanted to leave, and they've been wanting to leave for quite some time, but they couldn't leave because they were under contract, they were in a non-compete clause, and they had to wait it out, even though they really weren't actively working on a lot of the projects anymore.
Yeah, we'd heard a while ago that they were done.
Yeah,
but and one of the important things was to make sure that you don't associate their departure with the admittedly disappointing and underwhelming sales for Viva. How do you like it, by the way?
Viva Pinata?
Yeah.
I haven't played it.
Oh, good.
Actually, that'll be the first indication of Viva sales, right?
December?
Was it December with the November numbers?
Viva came out on November 15th, and it was not among the top 10 best-selling Xbox 360 games or the top 30 best-selling.
It sold like sub 50,000 or sub 100,000. It's one of the two numbers. It didn't...
Whoa.
That's what happens when you say that it's your biggest game of the year and bank on a cartoon. Lesson learned, Mr. Kim. The Halo 3 beta is going to be packed in with Crackdown. This was something...
Is every copy?
Here's the thing. I think it's sort of... the way that Bungie... Because Bungie updated their website and said, listen, it's you put your disc of Crackdown in, and it gives you the access key for it. So it's something that's probably going to be on the first run or first two runs of discs. Again, Crackdown ships February 20th. And this is the second way at the time that this news surfaced. And it surfaced via cheapassgamers.com. They have a scan from GamePro that had an advertisement for Crackdown in it. And again, this was something that we had speculated on back in November when the announcement came. We said, the beta will be a software pack-in. And it absolutely is a software pack-in. In Microsoft's language, one thing that's interesting to note has changed over the course of their press releases with this beta. And this is a sort of source of irritation for me. Early on when they announced the beta back in November, they called the beta a public beta. They said the Halo 3 public beta, and that language has actually changed from the time they announced it to now, where in their latest press release it doesn't say public beta anymore because there's a sort of implication with the term public, like Wait.
nothing implied about it. A public beta does not imply that it's public. It says it's fucking public.
Yeah, so it's not public at all. There's 3 ways to get in right now to get into the beta. It's buy Crackdown for $60 and get a specially marked version. You're going to be buying it in, I would say, the first 6 weeks, because you're not going to see when you pick up Crackdown on February 20th. You're not going to just turn it on and play Halo 3. It's just,
right.
You're not. It's going to be in April. It's going to be in April, late March type of thing.
But we've jokingly noted that we see people who work inside Microsoft playing what we presume is...
No, it is. Pimps at Seas Halo 3.
Okay, so I was trying to... Okay, so we don't have to dance around that. So they're playing that, but that doesn't mean that it's anywhere near ready to go to something that you'd turn on for a larger community.
Well, no, what they've said is what Bungie has said is in the Halo 3 beta, you are getting a finished, complete, polished experience. It's done. This part is finished. It's polished. This is Halo 3. Go have fun. And so there's 3 ways right now that you can get into this public beta, quote, public, which is absolutely not public. The other 2 ways were this first sweepstakes that you could sign up online for, and no one knows if they got in or not. You just signed up, and there's some sort of notification process.
Like the 1333, right?
No, that's the third one. The first one was a while ago. You signed up at Halo3.com, and there was no notification email. It's supposed to go out sometime this month to let you know if you got in or not. And then the third way is this the rule of threes, which is you'll play on when is it? February 1st of next year. You have to play 3 hours of Halo 3 multiplayer between February 1st and February 3rd, then be among the first 13,333 people to register at Halo3.com, and then you get a chance to get in the beta. Then that's it. Those are your 3 ways. It
seems awfully convoluted.
It's totally a series of sweepstakes to get in, and it's all Microsoft architecting all of this, and Bungie is... You can't really tell, from
Why can't it just be a reward for paying $50 for life?
Well, exactly. That's something that was explored by developers, and something that was not included in the final plan.
If I paid for the premium service, shouldn't I?
Wouldn't that be a great way to justify the sales? Yeah. Would be if you started having beta for games as Microsoft and started holding betas and saying you know what, gold users, welcome to being a gold user.
Gosh, do you think that if you liked it and while you were playing it during that, you might want to go buy the game and play it afterwards?
Wow, and a great way to justify your console. If you're yeah, you know what, I played the first part of Mass Effect. I played it already. I played it in the beta, and you know what, my save file transfers over, so I go buy the game on day 1. I've participated in the game early, and why don't you do that?
That's a hell of an idea,
isn't it? Shouldn't I?
Well, but I think we should be happy that there are ways to get in the beta that don't cost money. Because initially, that survey they sent, how much will you pay to play Halo 3 beta?
Well, for some people, apparently it's $59.99.
Well, and that's the reality is the people who don't get into these first 2,
and you get a lovely Crackdown coaster.
Hey, Crackdown looks all right.
You're not left out in the cold either. As Bungie's pointed out, they're sort of their own rebellion against the way that Microsoft's doing it. They don't seem to be happy with it. That they're unhappy enough that they're holding their own beta. They're holding their own sort of pre-beta beta. That they're inviting members from their community to come test the game outside of Microsoft's own parameters.
Well, doesn't some pride kick in at some point? And don't you think that probably as guys who are in the development business, they sympathize with the Crackdown team and think, look, how belittling must it be to Crackdown to say, oh, by the way, we're going to stick this beta in your game because we really don't think it's going to sell.
I don't know how belittling it is when the Crackdown team starts enjoying those royalty checks. Because let's be realistic. That game between February 20th and whenever the beta cycle ends is going to sell a retarded...
Do you think it was belittling to ZOE with the Metal Gear demo, wasn't it?
Or the precedent of the first one was Tobal #1 with Final Fantasy VII. That sold 1 million copies in Japan because it had a Final Fantasy VII demo in it.
In the difference, though, the critical difference there is that you got to keep the Final Fantasy VII demo. You got to keep that's the MGS tanker area. You got to keep replaying that. That when there's going to be a point where that Halo 3 demo, it's gone. And you're left with...
It's not a demo, it's a beta.
Yeah, but you're left with Crackdown.
But then Halo 3 comes out in a few months and you're okay.
I think it'll be more than a few months.
Well, what happened to Halo coming out in May? Were you just saying that?
I said July.
What happened to that?
And by the way, I did...
What happened to that?
I'll tell you in just a second. We're going to get to it.
I did play Tobal 1 the first day I bought it.
It's a good game.
Right after I talk about how Bungie also secretly took Halo 3 over to Iraq, which is... this is a pretty awesome gesture. These guys
awesome gesture.
They packed up a bunch of systems, took Halo 3 over to Iraq, and let a bunch of guys
on Christmas Day, right?
Yeah, over in Iraq play Halo 3, and some videos surfaced on YouTube and MySpace, and it's pretty awesome. And
is it the build that you guys saw? That's what I heard.
It looks exactly like the build that we saw, and they didn't want to do any PR for it. They're not talking about it. The guys from Bungie that I know have said nothing to us about it.
So was that Bungie or was that Microsoft?
It's Bungie.
It was Bungie.
They did tell me that Microsoft was pissed.
Really?
Microsoft wanted it licensed. They wanted sponsors for it.
They wanted MTV special.
you say it. But
There's a ton of military that play Halo, particularly. I mean, on the subfleet, as a matter of fact.
We get a lot of letters, EGEM, from.
that Bungie went out and did that. I think is a pretty great Christmas
really
present for some of our servicemen. The reason I don't think that I think that the July thing might be wrong is because Bungie doesn't need to put Halo out in July because BioShock's coming out in June, right?
Absolutely.
2K confirmed to One Up on Thursday afternoon that the game is actually going to ship in June, which. Again, it's something that we've heard, and we just are sort of looking for these ways to share the stuff that we know with you guys. And there was a message board post back in the middle of December from a 2K Games representative on some backwoods Tatooine type message board that said, "Yeah."
Look, wait a minute. Through the Looking Glass is not backwoods or Tatooine. That is where the spiritual surviving group of the studio is. It's not backwater at all.
Over on Tatooine. A 2K Games rep said it was coming out in June, and we confirmed it that way.
They also, since I know you didn't put it in the news, they also completely squelched the whole PS3 thing.
Well, completely squelched it for now. If it's coming to PS3, they under contract, they can't talk about it right now, and they can't even hint that it exists.
That's right.
And then one dude was going to cut his head off because Resident Evil 4 was never coming to PS2. Yeah,
that's a very good point.
Here's the thing: these discussions, it's coming to PS3 someday, probably. Get ready for it. It'll be 6 months later. Does that matter to you?
Right.
Okay. One thing that we couldn't get confirmed, unfortunately, was that the EA has disbanded Lord of the Rings: The White Council, which was that game it's the RPG that was called Project Grey Company. Well, EA offered us a no comment as to whether or not the lights had gone out in the White Council, but it's gone. Don't hold your breath.
Is this another EALA game that's been cancelled?
That was being made here.
Was it here?
Shores, I think. And if it was going to be as good as the Third Age, good riddance.
So long. Rumor squashing. On EB Games this week, a game listing surfaced that was like a Battlestar Galactica game for the 360 and PS and PC. I almost put it on your favorite platform.
The DS?
And it was purported to be like an MMO via the listing. Well, the listing got yanked. Vivendi said, "We're not making a Battlestar Galactica game. Are you kidding?
Why would we make a game about our most successful sci-fi franchise of all time?"
Never mind that, merely hours after Vivendi said no, there was a message in my one-up box that said, totally real, but totally not an MMO. So, anonymous tipster, thanks.
Do you think it'll be as good as Star Trek games?
Depends which one.
I think that's a pretty low bar you just put the line at.
Did anyone play the PS? It was PS2 or PS1? There was a Battlestar Galactica game, a very Colony Warsy game.
Sure?
Do you remember it?
Yes, PS2.
How Colony Wars?
It was like Colony Wars. It was like a
very Colony Wars.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, it was.
We talked about
a nice
that.
game.
We talked about that this week a little bit. Was how there's
it was a little throwaway.
Space flight simulators.
Yeah.
I don't know how you transition from space flight simulators to the simple reality that Hollywood's actually surprised that the Xbox. Hollywood and Shane actually are surprised that the Xbox video marketplace is working and that box office shit is finding second life on Xbox Live 360.
Dukes of Hazzard's up there now.
Well,
I got to support that.
It's it. Well, because in
HD,
you can see these movies in HD, and so people are like, "I just got this new TV for Christmas. What do you say we watch them Duke boys?" And that Jessica Simpson, she got a purty mouth.
Not the original Dukes of Hazzard, the TV show is up there, dude. Not
really?
Yeah.
Oh wow! In HD?
I don't know if it's in HD or not. Don't make fun of Cooter.
That's my brother, goddammit!
Oh yeah, that was Roscoe. Sorry.
Superman Returns is also.
Oh, that's a really great movie.
If you want to see a movie that I would give 2 out of 10.
It's great. You can tag team that and the 360 version of the game.
Luke, can you actually download all of these? Probably not. No, not enough room.
No, probably not. I think you'll probably see that alleviated sometime early this year. Garnet, where can they hear about the show?
Oh, well, on boards.oneup.com, of course. You're done. You've wrapped it up. You left it right there with me.
Punted the end of that over to you.
No, he was just kind of.
I have a question.
Like Sean Landetta.
I have something that we could maybe address. That since we last did a show, the whole Re-Emergence Day thing never happened. What was the deal with that?
Whatever happened?
It was like a faux viral marketing campaign that Epic struck down. Their game still is floundering on Xbox Live.
Hadn't they promised that within 30 days we see the first push of downloadable content for it?
Yeah, that's actually the stipulations that Microsoft sets out.
Are we
for
closing
their
in on 60 days?
It's been a grip.
And wasn't there a story that there was some certification issues with the extra content?
Yeah, yeah. Sounds like it. So it's
Are you Luke's very hedgy there.
well, I mean, certification issues. I mean, that's a whole big, giant Microsoft-related problem. As you're enjoying your live arcade game this week, just like I said earlier, Jack Squat platformer, Nemo made it. It's great.
So for people who heard the mention at the very beginning, we didn't bring it up because we have that rule about not talking about things we can't talk about, but right after CES we will be able to talk about Guitar Hero 2 for 360. So expect to hear some more coming up on
I heard
that.
some rockin' happening.
Skip's been playing it right across from us. We sit together now in the great
Yeah,
relocation.
can we have that copy back?
No.
No? Thanks.
Very simply, no.
A lot of Garnet spending time with Skip and I lately.
I would say
a little awkward.
I will say that guitar and that copy came to me.
my slight... We
Boy,
got,
they thought you played 360, huh?
got a big
You
mistake.
still haven't accepted my friend's request. That is,
I haven't gotten your friend.
dude. It is on my Xbox.
Really?
Yeah, you need to go. Maybe
I'll do that tonight. But anyway, we got that.
it hasn't been turned on in like 90.
We had that for like 5 minutes, and we haven't seen it since. You stole it. Give it back.
My frustrations with The Rock have been mostly alleviated in very grand and wonderful ways. So
Skip,
leave it at that.
Skip's shaking his head. I saw him this week fire up the song, fire up the. I'm not gonna spoil anything. He fired up Guitar Hero in hopes to sing one of his favoriteest bands. Have a great classic tune
Well, yeah,
on there,
'cause I
and he goes. Oh, it's one of their new songs.
Yeah, I actually aimed him. I was like, dude, you know that this band is on here? And he's like, what?
Yeah, so new music.
New bands, yeah.
Anyway, next week we'll be back. John and I will have some information from CES. Nothing probably earth-shattering games-wise, but maybe some interesting...
Are we all getting the new
Good
Apple
PC stuff.
thing?
My question is, are you guys going to stop at the porn convention while you're there?
The AVNs?
Yeah.
Last year,
Jesus shit, Garnet. He was there like that.
last year I got pushed out of the way by one of Larry Flint's bodyguards as Larry Flint
Rolled by
in his gold wheelchair.
Nice.
I'm a little upset because last year we actually stayed in the Venetian.
This year, the Microsoft press conference and parties in the Venetian, right on top of the porn convention.
Good choice.
Yes.
Good choice. You know what was funny is no one wanted to go to the AVNs with me. I was like, I'll go. I was like, man, I don't know.
You guys should go.
Yeah.
So we'll be back with that. And until then...
Be back with the porn conference update. Tune in. What you been playing, Garnet?
Wow. Good thing we have no video. Thanks very much. So until then, we're out. Catch us on boards.oneup.com. Tell us what you want us to talk about. We'll be back next week.